Welcome back to another episode of Love of Pages. This is your Geek Elite Media Network virtual book club, where we get together as a group of friends every week and swap favorite novels, new novels, and sometimes torture novels, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As always, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm joined by the lovely Naimah.
Hey there.
The beautiful Jessica.
Hello.
And the somewhat good-looking Stephen.
Oh, I'll accept it. It's better than ugly.
I was going to go with funny, but I was like, I've got to at least keep it somewhat in the looks area.
I'll take it. It's okay. I understand.
Naimah, jump in.
I was like, you were very handsome.
Thank you.
You're required to say that you're dating him.
I mean, for my own sanity, yes.
Yeah.
Like, if I was a person, like, no, not at all. But I'm still in this. There'd be a weird problem.
So this week we are on week 2 of Stephen's latest pick, The Invisible Life of Addie Larue.
Mm-hmm.
Which, while I am very invested in this book right now, Stephen, I think you're going to break my heart with this by the end. Like,
I'm very scared.
There's some clear setup.
I don't see how I don't spend the next week crying.
I do like that they made it so cute between the two of them. I didn't really see that coming.
It was so cute.
It's so cute, but I'm also afraid that he's like this tortured soul thing, and it's like, okay, bye. Can't stand that. That's all of the books I've ever liked in my life. It's just like, and then the male lead everyone falls in love with, and he's gone forever. And it's like, what?
This only ends one of 3 ways. There's only 3 options for this book.
Mm-hmm.
1, Addie just up and leaves him like right now after getting her story written down because she's like, it's going to be too hard to watch you grow old. 2, the devil, dark god, trickster god, whatever we want to call him, comes in and like severs this somehow, like corrects it. Or 3, this ends up like a Notebook situation where she gives in and gives up her life when after 60 years when
Henry
dies.
No,
that's it. Those are the only 3 options, and any of those is going to leave me crying.
There's a 4th option.
Yeah, well, I don't know what your 4th option is, but my 4th option is this book takes a hard left turn, and all of a sudden they're able to get rid of Luke in some way and both their curses, and everyone lives happily ever after. And I choose.
This isn't Disney.
I choose that ending.
I have the ending that I want in my head. At least I have a way to work around it, which is basically his curse is that it's a lifetime. That's what he said. But he didn't specify whose lifetime. Like my lifetime.
Jessica just went full on like law school. Where it's like, listen, it's a life.
Yep.
Like,
I can't do it with law, but I can do it with fantasy elements. Wrap around curses.
I do think they get to like use the terms of the 2 against both of them to do something. That's got to be how they do this. Or if they're able to break to be able to break their own curse, like how she's able to write her story through someone else, then maybe that does something. I don't know. But
and that's the thing. I think just where we ended today with the fact that she's having Henry write her story is the thing that they're doing. Mm-hmm. After that, I think it's all just downhill.
That's fair. The 4th one I was going to put forward was that they both are going to eat the poison berries. And so they stop it, and neither of them are subject to the curse anymore.
So you're going with a Hunger Games ending.
No, like you chose Hunger Games. That was the
So I almost forgot. We did not get into our cocktails for this evening because No Book Club is complete without beverages. So this week, I am drinking champagne because it is apparently Addie Larue's favorite drink.
Mm.
So that is what I'm consuming, and I'm really glad we chose this and not coffee because I wouldn't sleep tonight.
Because of the book, not because of the coffee.
Naimah, what are you drinking?
I opted to have more tea, so I've got my poached pear tea again because I went to a wine store today and specifically looked for a specific wine, and they were like, our supplier's out, we're not going to have it. And I was just like, fine. And so I left there in a huff. But I did get more wine to add to the collection that Elizabeth has sent me, so now I'm just stockpiling wine back here.
I mean, this is solid decision making. Jessica, what are you drinking?
I am drinking prosecco because it's the Italian version of champagne. And not quite. No, because I chose the wrong store to look for champagne at, and I'm very picky on my champagnes. Whereas I know I like this prosecco, so I got
you went to like CVS or?
No, I went to Walmart. It's just mainly because it's the closest store to me.
And Stephen, what is your beverage of choice this evening?
I have lemon iced tea in a can.
A very short can.
Yeah. It's from the Asian market downstairs. I'm going to crack it open and try it for the first time right now.
Okay, you go for it.
ASMR, you should have done it near the microphone. Just yeah.
I do apologize. It's very good. It's very good.
Good.
Honestly, there's a little bit of it, like, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It has a little bit of the taste of the rind of something else. It's like almost like the warm sweetness of like a fig a little bit in there too. It's very interesting, but it's very cold because that's the only way I drink drinks.
I saw you drink room temperature water today.
That's fine. That's water. Yeah, room temperature tap water.
Water doesn't count. Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, let's get into parts 3 and 4 of the book. So,
just Henry.
Yeah. So this section, we basically get all of Henry. Stephen, did you want to do the plot again, or do you want?
As far as things go, there's stuff to talk about for the plot, but more than anything, I think it's summarized by saying we learn Henry's past and the terms of his curse, like the things that brought him to wanting to actually make this deal, and then how that's affected him going forward. Those are the main things that we learned, and I'm sure we'll talk about the implications of those things and how he got there. If you guys want to just talk around those.
Someone to explain in their own words what Henry's curse is, because I feel like I got that in tidbits in different parts, and I was like, okay, I get that he was like a child that was missing love.
Henry's gift curse, as it is, his trade is that he is enough to everyone.
Yeah.
So what that means is when anybody looks at him, they see exactly what they need or want.
Absolutely.
And that's what I thought it was.
Person.
That's what I thought it was before. Like, before we ever learned that he even had one for sure, I was like, that's what it is.
I mean, even Beth said on the last one, it's like, he's got this thing going where everyone finds him attractive. Like, it's everyone. Like, he's got pull that everyone's like, hey, Henry. But, like, my thing is, like, I'm not, like, I understand if we're going, like, exactly literally, and, like, how if you said that to a god that was obviously trying to trick you, how this probably would be the repercussion of those types of actions. But it just seemed to jump from him being like, oh, you want to be loved, you want them to love you, and then it's just like, well, I made everyone on Earth basically love you. What else did you?
Because he said he wanted to be enough, because in that moment he had just come off the whole thing where he's not enough. And what I think the fact that so many people see, like, being attracted to him or other things like that, that's just speaking to what other people are looking for in someone else versus what he was wishing for, to me.
Yeah.
I don't think his curse is half as bad as hers, though. That's the thing that I think gets me. Like, it does.
My least favorite thing is when someone says something and isn't genuine about it.
But how do you know that? Like, okay, the thing is, I feel with like stuff like this, because they've done this multiple times in TV shows and movies where you've got this person and then they can't tell if everyone around them is either lying to them or telling the truth. Basically, that's just what their curse is. But like, for all he knows, some of them could have been honestly very genuine about what they were saying. There was like with him and his sister where it didn't seem ingenuine. It just was like, why is she saying this? Because she never says these things.
Yeah.
Well, it goes to that scene, like with his mom. Like his mom loves him, but she always was critical on him because that's the way she showed her love. Now she's not showing her love through being critical. She's just legit just showing her love.
Yeah.
Like kind of thing.
And Henry, like Addie, learns to adapt to the limits of their curse. You'll notice, particularly as his story progresses, he goes to asking people why.
Yeah.
Why do you like me? What makes me so great? What, and he is searching for somebody. The problem is, and I think his biggest issue is, I think it came up most in Bay. In the conversation with Bay
B?
on New Year's Eve. B?
Yeah, sorry.
B.
Yeah.
B on New Year's Eve, where she talks about him being a good friend, and he's like, no, I'm not a good friend. And that's where you get into the issues of, okay, she may not actually be lying, because those things could be true about you. Like, no, you're not what everybody else is saying, but hers may be pretty darn close. You just don't perceive yourself that way.
Well, like,
because what he's trying to do is to find somebody who sees him as he sees himself, which is distorted by his depression, anxiety, whatever it is that is going on there that causes him to feel more than
I think
he thinks he should.
We see it in that moment where... But no, I won't follow that line of conversation. The thing that would be the hardest for a person who just wants to be enough is to never be able to be enough because they're always enough falsely. Like that means so much. No matter what he does, even if he was enough for somebody, he's not, because it doesn't matter what he does. And so that's just the ultimate worst thing for him.
Yep. But that's why he's also so attached to Addie, and why he becomes so attached so quickly to Addie.
I did. There was a bit that I thought of immediately when we started this whole chunk of the book. The third part of it was that was the same kind of first date that Naimah and I technically had. It was in a speakeasy, so that was nice.
Oh yeah.
But was it an arcade speakeasy? And then did you guys go to
speakeasy after Comic-Con?
Yeah.
So we're shoving stuff together at this point. But like, I don't feel like we walked into a speakeasy that was that much of a whirlwind. The way they described this place to me was like a speakeasy that was like a club from like the early 2000s with a bunch of people jumping up doing a whole like, it seemed like so much was happening in this room.
But that was the second speakeasy, because that's the one she took him to.
That's true.
The fourth rail.
Yeah, she was responsible for.
Yeah, she was responsible for. Because she just does the ideas. I also really liked the circle back to B's thesis.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
but that's another tangent. No, but their first stop that he selected was a speakeasy behind a laundromat that was an arcade.
Yeah,
not a bar.
And
then she tried to take him to a movie theater, and he couldn't deal.
It really was our first date. That's uncomfortable now thinking back to it.
Yeah, it was, and she mentioned that there were like very specific kind of lights casting stuff. The speakeasy that we went to was all like just bathed in red. It was interesting. It was nice to read.
But I was at that speakeasy with you guys. There was no arcade games.
No arcade games.
Listen, you didn't find the us leaving one by one and hearing the guy outside the door going like 32 every time one person came in or left. I found that to be a very fun game to see how many he could keep up with.
I mean, I did notice, but I was a little more preoccupied with the fantastic old fashions that we were
Ooh.
consuming in large quantities.
But yeah, so I don't know. Was it too much of a stretch to think that she has had all of these different effects on all of these different people in all of these different places over this amount of time? Because while I think she could have, I'm still a little I don't know. It's a lot.
I think she knows how to read people and she knows who to plant ideas in.
I think it's just it's a timing thing. So probably during those first 50 years, she wasn't good at it at all. Because we think during our lifetimes, you don't think you'll make that much of an effect on another person, but you make a little bit of effect on the people who are closest to you. And then she's learned, okay, because there was a portion where they noted it wasn't until 50 years later she'd figure out that ideas stuck longer than trying to make your mark. Because ideas are just they tend to weasel themselves into things. It's not necessarily that something, but it's kind of that haunting thing in the back, which I think kind of really goes part of that deja vu. Because I don't know about you guys, I have a lot of deja vu, and I know it is actually not deja vu. I've not lived through this before, but the idea of this was in my brain at some point previously, and I had created an entire reality around that idea at some point.
Yes,
it actually happens, and it's wait. No, I've done this. And I haven't done this. I've just thought it through at another point of my life, and now I'm living it. So she really capitalized on that. She's let's see what works for people. So the whole idea of the songwriter. Songs, mostly when people are writing lyrics, those are just ideas until it becomes something solid. It's not like she left a song on the table.
Well, I mean, she kind of did, because she they had written the stuff down. They had gone through and written it down. She spent evenings with the guy. I just mean how many people. The idea that she's had big effects and stuff, that's not crazy to me at all. It's just that there are so many that we know of just in the book that we're reading, just the ones that they've chosen to point out, that's a lot. Even just talking about how far a person could travel.
She also doesn't have a day. Remember that.
That's true.
Yeah, she has no day job, and she's very committed to making this work because it's the only thing keeping her going.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have all this time and all this energy, because she doesn't get hungry, she doesn't need. I mean, she gets hungry, but she doesn't die from hunger. She doesn't really need sleep. So.
Well, she does need sleep because she was exhausted in one part of this book, or this section of the book, and she passed out with sleep.
But but the other thing is I think some people naturally, because I think cycling back to that tangent on B's thesis and the fact that she was in these different portraits, if you are somebody who is truly living very free, and Henry describes her as the uncatchable girl, that is very inspiring. So you're going to be more, even if you aren't remembered, the feeling of who you are is going to be far more remembered. So I think because this curse has essentially freed her from societal constraints in the concept of, I have to get stuff done, I have to have a family, I need to do this, that, or the other thing. She can just literally be whoever she wants to be because nobody's going to remember. She becomes this ethereal kind of being.
Don't get me wrong. I think, like I said, I think it's possible to have all these effects. It's just the quantity of these.
It's a lot, yeah.
It is a lot, but I think it's still doable.
I understand.
Let's all try. 300 years, guys. Let's just...
Yeah.
But I want to know, so Clash of the Curses, how that went down and the explanation of why it works. Do you guys think that was actually feasible? Because I was I stopped that portion to reread it and went, okay, wait. Because what they're suggesting,
he's a trap. Yeah. He is a trap. Because that's the first thing she said. She's like, you're not a trap. And I'm like, no, he's not a trap. He is a trap, girl.
When was the last time you saw Luke? No.
I know. Well, that's the thing. I think one thing I want to talk about is she has the ring back that she supposedly lost. I think she may have won the war with Luke or a big battle with Luke, and that's why he's not around, and that's how she got the ring back. And I feel like she won the war of feelings with Luke. I'm not for sure, but that's what I'm getting from all the snapbacks. Like it felt like they actually had a relationship for a
She never
while.
lost the ring.
Really?
No, she did lose the ring. That was what she gave.
Yeah.
That's what she gave to. She buried it
at
in
some
the
point.
ground.
The ring came when she woke up back in the forest. She had the ring in her pocket.
Yeah, that's the thing that she has. That's supposed to be the cue for I've given in. She puts the ring on, and then she's saying, "I accept this as the end."
I missed that. I thought she had
'Cause
said she lost the ring.
She lost the bird.
I swore she said she didn't have it. No, I swore she said she didn't have it. It was in the ground still or something. Okay.
Significance of that, she puts the ring on to this weird like god creature that she has this uncomfortable relationship with. She's basically like, yes,
Well, yeah, that's exactly what he's going for.
with you forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That is the cruel irony of it. She made this deal to avoid marriage. So when she gives in to marriage to the devil, he gets her soul.
it's
Okay, I totally missed that then. But I was like, why did she have the ring back?
To be clear, we did not get an actual scene where they discuss the fact that the putting the ring on is going to be assigned to Luke. It's alluded to when she panics at Henry's, and I think we're going to get a flashback in one of the next sections that actually fills that out for us. But
Because we've had
the foreshadowing is there.
We've had, I think, 3 times where she was like, "Oh, almost put that ring on. Oh no." So
I feel like you can avoid this much easier than the way she's going about it. Like, we're living in 2014. Just find somewhere to put it around your neck, get a necklace. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do something so that you're not worried about it inadvertently slipping onto your finger. But like the thing that I was trying to figure out is like how that like sort of, I guess I'm at a loss for the word for it, but like the like counteracting of their curses worked, because basically they were trying to explain that out as if Henry basically was able to get what he needed from her because like she kind of existed outside of the people that they're targeting, and she was able to get him to remember her solely because he needs people to accept him, and so it would invalidate his curse if she couldn't. So she needed to be there to be able to do those things.
Well, so the way I understood it was that he is supposed to be whatever the person looking at him needs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what she needs is to be remembered.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's all that he has to be. He doesn't have to be anything else. He just needs to remember her.
Yeah.
So she can see him for who he is, really, because nothing else matters to her. She doesn't give a shit about anything else.
Yeah, he just needs to be
Just that he remembers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my thing is, then how does his curse still hold for her?
So I mean, for hers, the thing that for forgetting is all like that. That would be the entire effect on him. Would be that one thing.
But his is like you have to be in. I guess
his is saying that she would want to be remembered. So it's just superseding hers.
I didn't see it. And I think she made the point, like, we're Russian nesting dolls. It's not that we're invalidating each other's. It's that we literally complete each other's.
Okay, so one got put into the others. I can understand that better now.
Yeah,
it was just weird. Like his whole curse was like, he needed to be like, he wanted to be accepted enough for everyone, and seemingly he is enough for her. But she has also said things to him that would not match up with the rest of how that curse is operated. Like he's like, it's like that whole first conversation they had in the cafe where she basically looks into his eyes and tells him about all of this extra stuff that she's seeing, and he's like, I mean, it's what captivated him, but that sort of, like operates for me outside of the sort of mentality or like connection we're getting with him and the rest of the people. It's like technically he was enough for a bunch of other people, but they're still acting different around him.
But I think it was a falsehood for those things.
Yeah. I feel like his curse might also depend on how much they actually believe that he is that thing, though. If that makes sense. Like, B doesn't seem that affected because she does see him as a good friend. So it just exemplifies slightly those feelings. So she's not as affected by it. Whereas people who, like, never consider him attractive, but they want to date somebody or whatever, now all of a sudden they find him attractive, even though they probably normally wouldn't.
Robbie,
I think that's
the like heightened ones where it's like Robbie's all of a sudden like jumping his bone and then like tapping. I rejected you just a little while ago, but hey, round 2.
Yeah.
You want to go through it again? And like those are like the stark contrast where it's just like we now have Addie and she's there and she has no previous connection with him, which might come into play because whatever she meets is going to be, you know, what her interpretation of this person is. So she will be enough upon immediately meeting him. It's not like there was a before his curse for her.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, she doesn't. The only thing she's wanted for the last 300 years is to be remembered. So she doesn't want somebody to date. She doesn't want, somebody who's smart and funny, and she doesn't want somebody who's 6'2". She doesn't want there's none of that.
That's not strictly true, though. He does look like what she wanted.
He's like, you are. Yeah. He exemplifies everything with the exception of
the eyes.
When he enjoys himself, he's actually enjoying himself, and she's not like seeing him decay into like some darkness that she's afraid of.
Well, except she was actually scared of him, scared of the way he looked initially until she could find the differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
what if that was the correction for her? What if he does look like that and the correction is the differences?
I just think with what we've seen with what we have so far, there's still more. It's not as cut and dry as what they think of this one. It's not that their two things do fit so perfectly together, and that's not just looking at it as a story that always has to have an ebb and flow, a rise and a fall. It's just it would not work out as cleanly. Even just us talking about this right now, we are all like, how do these things necessarily fit together? And then to accept their explanation about this so blindly feels foreign to every single one of us here.
I feel like it might be because the writing is so grounded in truth. Or myth, because I did notice one of the things I noticed was her thing started with there was a girl born with a constellation on her face, born with 7 stars on her face. His thing started there was a boy born with a broken heart that doctors had to put back together. That's literally the start of a lot of myths. Or, it's folkloric writing 101 is to start with that line like that. And I'm like...
And reference with meeting the stranger, because they call whoever... It's still Luke, right? Let's just put that. Yeah. It's still Luke. Okay.
Yeah.
Version is the stranger and hers is the darkness.
She even referred to him as Luke when referencing him to Henry.
Yeah.
Well, and Luke appeared to Henry basically the way that Addie created him. He's definitely he is invested. This god is definitely invested in Addie because he's like, no, this is the way she wants me to look. So this is the way I'm going to look.
And this is forever. With Jess's point, I still think that I don't want to, but that's the ending that I think is coming most rapidly, even though I want it to be a happy ending, is that Henry is part of this trick because Henry didn't get anything until he was already Luke was already in prime looking, the way that Addie wanted him to look when he approached Henry. Then all of a sudden he's making deals with this person, and then even referencing to Addie. I don't remember the time thing because I used to be writing down the years when everything was happening so I could create a chart of when everything happened to everyone. But then there was a portion where Luke approached Addie and he'd been gone for 6 years or some of time. And then she was like, you were gone for so long type situation. She hadn't seen him. Huh?
Was it
4 years, I think.
4 years?
It was first 4 years, and then there was another one that was 6 years.
Yeah.
When he embarrasses her in the salon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, I just think Bridgerton at this point. I'm like, it's snooty. But he also noted, he's like, there's plenty of other souls. So like that was just like my tick off is like, he's plotting around you.
Yeah.
And that's why I am so afraid Henry's going to end up being a trick.
No, he is.
I don't think Henry's a... Go ahead.
No, it was just so obvious that she doesn't look at it because it's too blaringly obvious. You know what I mean?
Can't see the forest for the trees.
He's got, it's just like, nah, this is too on the nose. This is not going to be a trick. And it's like,
see, and I don't think it's an intentional trick. However, I do think Luke is going to use it to his advantage. I think he's going to make Addie trade her soul for Henry.
I mean, that would be the nicer, like, I'm okay with that ending. That's still a love ending. That's it's like, it's not great, but it's notebookish. You know, one you lose one and you lose the other later.
Yeah.
I hate the book.
Because the thing isn't that just because Henry is cursed, he can remember her. It's that because his particular type of curse interacts with her particular type of, like, so they're...
Yeah, it's not that he's cursed. It is the curse that he has that allows that for connection.
Correct.
But all I keep thinking of, like, anyone could have come in contact with her and probably had a variety of curses that could have been bestowed upon them. Like, I think about the way that he asked for something. There could have been a ton of different ways to get that to happen, but still torture a soul throughout the rest of its time. But he chose the one relatively in the same city she was in that she might encounter. And like, they're playing it off as like, Luke made a mistake. And I'm like,
yeah,
it doesn't seem like he's a character that makes a mistake like that.
Well, also, I think one of the first things Luke said to Henry was, "Oh, you'll be perfect." I swore he said that. He said, "You're perfect." Got it.
Maybe Henry's
I don't remember that
trick,
line.
but he was just a very well-timed tool. Like, all of a sudden, like, it's been like years, like it's been hundreds of years, and Luke is just waiting for something because he's run out of good ways to torture Addie. Like, at this point, she's found ways to make her abnormally elongated life work, you know? And she's like, I will give up when I'm damn ready to give up, not when you say it. So he's just like, well, what do I do now? And he stepped in before and tried just like putting in ideas to sort of mess up her life, but he hasn't had a way to like really have an effect on her where she is so destroyed that she lets go. And thinking of building up her life to the point where it's like someone remembers you now, and to tear that away would to me be the kind of thing that would be like, you know what, I just don't care anymore and let it go. Because he could continually keep doing that to her.
I just think there's too many circumstances. There's too many like coincidences in the way that he looks, like his curse. Again, he has so many souls. Why does he need to make any deals with this one person? This one person's motivations are anyone. You could make that deal with so many people. We all know 5 people minimum who would make that deal that he made. So,
well, that's the thing. He finally found someone that fit the bill for it. And we don't like. That's the thing. I don't think we get into at all, and that's probably just because the story isn't about Luke. Like, what the extent of Luke's godly powers are. Like, does he have limitations? Like, what does like Henry actually look like outside of Addie's eyes? And like, could he only do so much to like make that a thing, you know? Like, it couldn't take a woman and be like, haha, there you go. Like, I've made it look like me.
I mean, we do know. You go first. I've interrupted you already.
My thing is why wait 300 years for that?
I don't think it was a matter of like choosing to wait 300 years. I think you also have to wait for a person who looks like this
and prays after.
Yeah.
Well, except does he have to look like that? Because if Addie is changing him to look like her stranger in her eyes, doesn't really matter what Henry looks like.
I don't think he's changing what. I don't think his curse is affecting her. in that way. I don't think she's seeing him differently because of his curse. I think this just happened. His brother, he thought that Luke was his brother sitting on the bench next to him visually. Mm-hmm. So they just look that way. But the idea, looking at a few people and seeing like where this could possibly go visually, keeping an eye on this one family line to the point where they might look like he wants, seems like a thing he would do at this time.
I also just think it's he needed a new torture device, and it was like, oh, he walks in this really depressed. Oh, he's praying. Oh, that's a bad idea for you, bro. Hello, my name is Luke. How you doing? You know, it's just like it was like
Henry wasn't praying.
He wasn't praying, but he was having like that's the thing. It's like what is also was it nighttime? A lot of things are questionable.
It was nighttime
for sure.
It was definitely nighttime, but like Henry wasn't praying.
But like that's
Addie was very clearly praying.
Yeah, but that was in 17.
She asked for this.
Like my thing is that was in 17. What? So like what? When I think of like praying back when like Christianity was like this whole thing, it's like they got down on their knees and they were like in a church praying. Versus like now where it's like a person could be having like an existential crisis on like a park bench, and technically they're not praying like in the like traditional sense of them going, God. Don't know if you exist, but like blah, 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 versus them just going, I really need help. Is anyone listening? Like over and over and their pop up. Here's a dude.
Yeah. Cause honestly, even if we just look at the idea of what prayer is to like 3 different religions, it's so drastically different. That just happened to be the version that was given to Addie in that time back then, you know, like what it can be considered a prayer or like a plaintive wail that could count as this, like it can be pretty broad. But I'm curious though, where do you guys see this going from here? Like what is the next portion of this? Because we have 3 parts of this book after the 4 that we've read up to now.
The fill-in of Addie and Luke's relationship.
That's fair.
Will be the next part. And then the final parts will be me crying every other page.
We're going to get some like time reconciliation for things like we've done the flashbacks a lot with like Addie 1700, Addie 2000s, and then we're getting bits and pieces of like Henry's like chunk, but I feel like they're gonna start like timing it better so that we know the exact sequence of what happened when like Addie does this. This is the first time. Like it seems strange to me that she's been in Paris this long and has never encountered Henry before, but it was walking into this bookstore. This is the first time he's just mysteriously there. Also, has it explained why he's at this bookstore? Didn't he get a job as a teacher?
I assume he didn't take it.
He turned down the job.
Yeah.
He turned down the tenure professor. And he definitely was not praying when Luke walked up to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because this just says, like, he forces himself to stop, presses palms against his eyes, and tell himself it's just a storm. Batten down the hatches and wait it out. It's just a storm. It's just a storm. He's not sure when the man sits down beside him on the step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
There's no praying.
I need that say you're perfect.
I don't think it has to be anything so clear as the person necessarily reaching out like that with just these words, you know, like the idea of what could count as asking for something. It seems weird to constrain it to just the idea of what we have in current belief systems. Like, that's just me.
To me, like the development of prayer and stuff like that, like even when I was younger, prayer meant something very specific, but like if I talk to my friends about religion, they're like, oh yeah, I prayed this morning. I'm like, I was with you this morning. What are you talking about? Like, that didn't happen. They could very well have just been like, that's it. That's all I got for you.
And I'm fine with the...
But like how... Yeah. Okay. For me, I just don't understand how like Luke could have appeared without the prayer, because it seems like the whole point is that these things are prefaced by someone calling upon a god in some way. You just did it after dark, so you got the wrong one, or you got the one with like a little bit more deceitful and nefarious aims. Like they're not there for your best interest; they're there for your soul.
See, and my thought is we keep talking about how prayer has evolved over time. What's to say the gods haven't? Like, it used to be that a lot of people would seek out the gods. Well, if nobody's seeking out the gods anymore, God's got to do something with their time. So
Yeah, you change it. You're like, well,
they
you
seek out the souls.
You tweeted this 2 years ago. I think this counts.
Means tell me like the gods be at that bar in the cloud being like, do you remember when they feared us?
There's a whole series about this.
To know that that's
right?
probably a thing. If they do exist, they're all just chilling together. Remember when people used to sacrifice? No, dude, remember that one? Like, they killed all of those people. And it's like, I know. It's like,
Remember when we convinced all of Greece that their prophet was lying to them and the amount of myths that came out of that were just
remember when the
gold.
people just burnt everything? It's like, yeah, dude, I felt powerful then. It's like, yeah, you're looking a little scrawny. Should go find some new followers.
Take up the Kraken again, Poseidon.
No, I think Luke shows back up. And I think while he did not I don't think Luke plans this. I think he sees the potential and utilizes it as a torture device on Addie.
So I just thought of something else that's slightly more twisted, using like Beth's like interpretation of what happens. What happens if he was not the mastermind behind all of this, but he does realize that it could work toward his advantage, and he basically tries to use Henry. It's like, listen, I'll let you out of your curse if you work with me with this. I feel like that would break my heart even more than him just dying of old age as if he like shit dies. Like, just let him die. I'm okay with that. Don't let him be a part of the thing that tortures Addie. Like, I can't. That's not a thing that I can put up with.
I'm sure he's going to be.
Yeah.
I like, regardless of whether it was on purpose or not. I mean, happy little accidents. You know, like these things happen. So we'll see. But I'm very curious. I think in the first section of the book, I started being a little bit less interested. And then we got to these second two parts of the book. I was back in. And at the end of this one, I'm very curious to see where it goes. But I'm not in it for what the main pitch of the story was at this point. I liked more the developing thing between them than the original core idea of Addie's curse and all of that in this portion of the book, personally.
It was good development in the like stuff. But I am completely and utterly invested now. I need them to make like, subsequent books of this. Like, I need Henry's life. I don't know what the cute name for that book would be, but I need Henry's life. I need a book about Luke.
I would be down with a book about Luke, but see, Henry's portions and flashbacks on this, I got really bored with.
Yep.
Really?
Like, I get it. I got it.
I was like, oh, you whiny baby. Like, get over it.
Hey, man, empaths exist. He's just a very severe one.
It is not the empath that gets me. It's the wallowing in self-pity.
Yeah. He wasn't so much just an empath reflecting something back to someone else for me. He was like those things where they have two-way mirrors next to each other, and so they just bounce back and forth whatever's in the middle. And he was just his own empath. Like, he was feeling so empathetic for himself. Those were the parts that I didn't like.
Like, I don't know what it was. I know a lot of empaths, and some of them are extremely annoying to me. So you know one of them. But like, I don't know. I still kind of felt bad for the guy. It was completely unjustified, but I still kind of felt bad for him.
Yeah, it was one of those.
He's got middle child syndrome pretty dang hard.
Like, I tried to explain it to anybody. I'm like, it's a kid that doesn't fit into his own family. But like, I feel bad.
And like, yeah, he doesn't fit into his own family, but like, his friends clearly care about him.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. He's already messed up from the family.
Yeah, that's the hard part. It's hard to undo that initial programming.
Yeah. So he'll never trust that his friends actually like him. It's just,
Seek
Like,
assistance.
why I like him is because he's a case study.
Like, you do have to, like, at some point you have to take charge of your own life, and you
No.
and I get And I get needing help and I get needing assistance and I get, it's hard to unprogram and reprogram. And I get that sometimes it's not possible, but he clearly wasn't taking any steps towards that.
Because he's depressed.
I need to know he did take steps, and they were like, we only have like one part to shove Henry in because we need to get to the end of this plot. He could have so much more.
That's fair. But instead he just gets pink pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also sold from his point of view, so it's very staggered and not detailed, because it's very much a good example of writing of how a depressed person would see themselves, because they don't see themselves. Like, it actually, I think the reason why it came across as boring is because he sees himself as being boring. So I think that was intentional.
I was not bored. Do not interpret this as bored.
Oh.
I just didn't care for it because it felt like a lot of self-whining. He didn't give any people critique me. That was his big complaint. People critique me.
The thing I thought felt about it was that they seemed like they were setting it up to be a really powerful thing for him, where it's like, it was this like really big, like deep need. And then everything after that was supposed to be the evidence of that was just so very surface level.
I thought there was going to be like, he was going to have a much larger problem when like Addie just spilt all of her guts out, which again, still confused why the whole rest of the time she was unable to say her name, and then this exact moment she was able to tell him her entire history.
Well, she could say her name to him.
Yes, she did say her name to him.
It just seemed like something blocking.
This is actually making me think this is why Luke did intentionally lay this trap, because I swear Luke talked him into his curse. Like, Luke talked to him a lot more than he did Addie. Yeah. He just made Addie say exactly what she want, whereas Luke was like, you want to be this. This is what you want. Well, you want this with Henry. And this
said no. He didn't. He was walking away. He was like, listen, I grew up religious, and I've read a lot of books. This is not a good idea.
Yeah, as a person who reads a lot of books,
you're the devil. I'm good.
Yeah, as a person who reads a lot of books, he should not have been down for this. Like, if you're a person who watches a lot of horror movies, you don't go into the well to go look at things. You don't go downstairs in any building. Like,
I know I wouldn't, but like the amount of times that like I've watched horror movies with my friend, and I'm like, we've seen this play out. Please do not make the same mistakes. And then I'm out with my friends, and they're like, you want to go walk down this alley? Nope. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
I will say the other thing we did not talk about in here was the sheer insanity of that barista person that he dated. For
Vanessa?
Yeah, she was
Vanessa,
just like,
the barista. Yes.
Yeah. Like, she's just like, so she lit the things on fire. He was gone for like 2 seconds, and she found the things that were from his previous relationship that ended maybe a week prior, 2 weeks, something like that. I forget. Very short time prior. She burns it, and he's like, what are you doing? She says, this will be good for you. You're holding on to these things. You've had them the entire time we've been dating. And he had the appropriate reaction. He said, we've been together for 2 days.
I loved that, because it is both like the most like absurd thing to happen, but also so real. Like, if there's someone that is obsessed with you and you let that person into your home, what do you think is going to happen? Because these people aren't actually in love with him. They are obsessed with him. Mm-hmm. He is checking all the boxes. He's just like walking thing that I've been wishing for. And like, oh, he just has all this stuff from his ex-girlfriend. Well, we've been together for like centuries now in my mind. So
I do have sympathy for Henry in this moment, because you do, like, he doesn't register that they're obsessed with him, and that is definitely a learning curve. Like, and he doesn't make the same mistake twice, which I do appreciate. So, like, I will give credit where credit is due to a character. Like, he's like, oh, this is bad. Okay, I need to be careful. So, like, he does at least learn. I feel like he learns much faster than Addie learns.
Yes.
About how to deal with his curse.
He has less time, too.
I also feel like his curse is something that you very quickly learn, like the bad sides of. Like her, like, oh well, you just get to live for like it's like his is. I feel like masquerading, like it's a good thing masquerading under a bad thing, and hers is a good thing with a bad thing underneath. It's like living forever isn't great if no one can remember you, and his is like everyone loves me, but just kidding, even those crazy people.
Oh, yeah. So, and I did appreciate the play out with
Robbie?
Robbie, thank you. It's like, what's his name? It's not Ricky. That's the name I kept thinking. The play out with Robbie. But yeah, no, I had a hard time with all that build up, and then it's like, yes, people criticize me, or they get mad at me for doing stupid things, and it's like,
happens, bro.
yes.
I have one completely unrelated question because we haven't talked about it, but I was thinking this every time this ended up being a chapter. Remy, most forgettable character, right? Like, why is that in there? Like, he has like this cool name, Remy Laurent, and then it's basically like he's this guy that knew I was pretending to be male, and I'm dedicating like full chapters to conversations I've had with him, and then I see him at a party and he's old and I don't care anymore.
Well,
He's
emblematic of all the other artists that she meets.
Yeah, he's at an effect.
And to me, I think he is foreshadowing the issues with Henry.
Okay.
The damage and the toll that it's going to take to fall in love and then somehow have to fall out of love for her. No matter how this ends, Addie and Henry don't end up together. So I think the Remy chapters were the foreshadowing.
if I wrote it.
To Sorry, it's
pull
not
out the
a
last
Disney
chapter,
movie.
like
It's not a Disney movie, people. I am sorry. There is just no way that this book ends.
Listen,
Don't say
even
it's not a
with-
Disney movie. It can happen.
No, listen. It could be a Disney movie whose parents are dead because not all Disney movies are happy. There's one of the parents that make it through.
I did think about that earlier. There was something that we said, and I was like, no, yeah, I mean, her dad is gone. Just her mom is left. It's weird that it's the mom this time that's left, but still.
Like,
Yeah, by the time that most of the story takes place, they're both long dead, and he's got both his parents.
This is true.
And they definitely aren't like, you have to marry a princess. So
so far.
They really just seem to want him to find something that makes him happy. Like, that's basically what I got from the conversations with the families, and like even his perceptions of their complaints about him is like, okay, so they just want you to find purpose in life.
It's the thing that kind of got me. They seemed mildly supportive to me, so I was just like, okay. Because his sister was like, you don't even like that job. And it was just like, it didn't seem judgmental. It seemed like she actually listened to me in the past about how much I didn't like that job.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, maybe. But I get it. Those kinds of things are hard to see when you've got all else going on in your brain. It's just like you hear the criticism, not the constructiveness of it.
I will say it seems like he didn't have to necessarily make a deal with the devil. He could have just like talked to his doctor about SSRIs. Like he might have been more well served with that.
Yes. So, dear listeners, please don't make deals with the devil. If you are feeling depressed, anxious, suicidal, please reach out for help at any of the national hotlines. Seek counseling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone, don't pray to the gods that answer after dark. It was like the first line. Don't do it.
This is true.
Yeah, please don't try and make a deal with the devil to make your depression go away. It's not going to end well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if at any point in time you find yourself wishing that there were someone you could make some kind of deal like this with, get on the computer. There are some clear resources for this stuff. You can find people to talk to at any time of day with the right phone numbers and stuff. Also, you can tweet at us.
We'll help where we can.
Mm-hmm.
So, on that high note, Naimah, if people want to reach out and talk to you about writing fan fiction for Luke on this, where can they find you?
I am on Instagram. other places, other pages, and also Imajanon on both Instagram and Twitter.
And Jessica, if people want to swap theories on this Henry case study, where can they reach out to you?
You can find me on Twitter as JM Bailey Writes.
And Stephen, if people want to talk to you about turning this into a Disney movie where the mother is the one that's alive, where can they find you?
You can find me across all social media as some version of Peppermint Gentleman. For Twitter, it's Peppermint Gent for short.
And you can find me with the rest of Geek Elite Media at Geek Elite Media and our Facebook page /Geek Elite Media. Archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts can be found on our website, geekelitemedia.com. But until next time, this is the Love of Pages, reminding you to always keep turning those pages and always remember to geek out.
Geek out.